Ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels trying to reach your goals? Like you're putting in the effort, but not really getting anywhere.
It's a common struggle. We set these big, ambitious goals for ourselves, but then life gets in the way.
Yeah, exactly. And we end up feeling stuck. Like we're just not making any real progress.
Well, today we're going to dive into something that can make a huge difference: habits. Those tiny actions we take every single day that can either make or break our success.
Okay, so we're talking about the power of habit. I'm intrigued. Where are we getting all this wisdom from today?
Our deep dive today is based on this fascinating podcast episode called How to Build Good Habits That Last. And believe me, it's packed with insights.
Awesome. So by the end of this deep dive, what can our listeners expect to walk away with?
Well, first of all, a deeper understanding of why good habits are so essential for reaching our goals. It's not just about willpower or motivation. There's actually a science to it.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about this science of habit formation.
Well, it all starts with understanding how habits actually work. And the key to that is something called the habit loop.
The habit loop. Sounds intriguing. Break it down for me.
So imagine a three-part cycle. First, you have the cue. This is the trigger that sets the whole habit in motion.
Okay, so the cue is like the starting pistol. What happens next?
Then comes the routine. This is the actual behavior itself, the thing you do automatically in response to that cue.
Got it. So like if the cue is seeing a notification on my phone, the routine might be picking it up and checking Instagram.
Exactly. And then the final part of the loop is the reward. This is the positive feeling you get from performing the routine, and that reward is what reinforces the whole cycle, making you more likely to repeat it in the future.
So in your example, the reward might be the little dopamine hit I get from seeing a funny meme or getting likes on my latest post.
Precisely. And over time, as you repeat this loop over and over again, the connection between the cue, the routine, and the reward gets stronger and stronger. That's when it becomes a true habit.
Interesting. So it's not just about willpower or forcing ourselves to do something. It's about understanding how this habit loop works and then using it to our advantage.
Right. If we can hack this system, we can build any habit we want.
I'm starting to see how powerful this could be. So we're not just talking about like remembering to take our vitamins or make our bed every morning. We're talking about building habits that can transform our lives.
Exactly. Think about it. What if you could make it a habit to exercise every day or eat healthy meals without even thinking about it? What if you could train your brain to focus on your work and avoid distractions?
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the potential here. This could be huge. So how do we do it? Where do we even begin?
Well, the first step is awareness. We need to identify the habits we want to change and then break them down into those individual components: the cue, the routine, and the reward. We need to become habit detectives.
I like that. Habit detectives on a mission to improve our lives.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun. All right, so we've laid the groundwork. We know how habits work, the power of the habit loop, all that good stuff. But before we get too excited about building new habits, I think it's important to talk about what can go wrong. You know, there's times when you start with the best of intentions, but then things kind of fall apart.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there. And I think one of the biggest pitfalls is being overly ambitious at the start, trying to do too much too soon.
Yeah, totally guilty of that. It's like New Year's resolution syndrome. You're super pumped in January, and then by February, it's like pepto.
Yeah.
Back to square one.
Exactly. And there's a reason for that. Our willpower is actually a finite resource. There's a limit to how much change we can handle at any given time.
So it's not just about being lazy or lacking motivation. There's actually a scientific basis for why we struggle to stick to those big sweeping changes.
Right. So instead of trying to overhaul your entire life overnight, a more effective approach is to focus on one key habit at a time.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's like that saying, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard.
I love that. It's all about breaking those big goals down into smaller, more manageable steps.
So let's say I've picked my one habit, the one I'm really going to focus on. What's the next step?
This is where a lot of people trip up. They lack specificity. They set vague goals like, I'm going to eat healthier or I'm going to exercise more. But those are just good intentions. They're not actual plans.
Oh, I'm so guilty of that. It's like telling yourself you're going to travel more. Sounds great in theory, but without a destination and an itinerary, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. Those vague goals don't trigger any specific actions. So instead of saying, I'm going to exercise more, get really concrete. Decide exactly what type of exercise you're going to do, how long you're going to do it for, and when you're going to do it.
Okay, so remove the decision-making from the moment. Have the plan already in place.
Precisely. The less your brain has to work in the moment, the easier it is to follow through.
This is brilliant. I'm starting to see how all these little pieces fit together.
And here's another piece to the puzzle. Don't rely solely on motivation. That initial burst of enthusiasm is great, but it's fleeting. It comes and goes.
Ugh, tell me about it. Motivation is like that friend who's always flaking on plans.
Huh. The perfect analogy. So instead of relying on motivation, which is unreliable, we need to focus on building systems that support us even when we don't feel like it.
Okay, so how do we actually build those systems? We've touched on a few strategies, but let's dive a little deeper.
One powerful technique is something we call habit stacking. It's all about leveraging the existing neural pathways of your current routines. So for example, let's say you already make coffee every morning. While the coffee is brewing, you could do 5 minutes of stretching.
Oh, I like that. It's
So-
like hitching a ride on an already moving train.
Exactly. You're using the existing habit of making coffee as a cue to trigger the new habit of stretching. And because that coffee routine is already so ingrained, it makes it easier to stick with the new habit.
I'm starting to see the potential here. What are some other examples of habit stacking?
Well, if you walk your dog every evening, you could listen to a podcast while you do it. Or if you always brush your teeth before bed, you could add a quick meditation session right after.
Okay, so it's all about making the new habit a natural extension of something you already do consistently.
Exactly. And the more consistent that existing routine is, the more powerful that stack becomes.
So habit stacking helps us insert those new actions into our day. But what about those external things that get in the way? Like, let's say my desk is always a disaster area. How am I supposed to focus on writing when I'm surrounded by clutter?
Ah, that's a great point. And it brings us to the importance of removing obstacles. This could be physical clutter, like you mentioned, or it could be digital distractions like your phone or social media.
So it's not just about building good habits, it's also about creating an environment that supports those good habits.
Precisely. If you want to read more, don't keep your books tucked away on a shelf in the back of your closet. Put them right on your nightstand where you'll see them.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Make the good choice the easy choice.
Exactly. It takes way more willpower to resist temptation than to remove it entirely. So set yourself up for success by designing your environment to support the habits you want to build.
Speaking of setting ourselves up for success, I'm a big believer in celebrating wins, even the small ones. How does that play into habit formation?
Rewards are absolutely essential. Remember that reward phase of the habit loop we talked about earlier? Well, we can actually use rewards to our advantage. It's like giving your brain a little pat on the back every time you successfully complete the habit loop.
So we're not just relying on that natural reward that comes from the habit itself. We're adding a little extra incentive to keep us going.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything big or expensive. The key is to find what truly motivates you. Maybe it's a piece of dark chocolate after a workout, or listening to your favorite podcast while you're doing the dishes.
Yeah, I think it's really important to get to know yourself and figure out what feels truly rewarding.
Absolutely. And here's the cool part. As you build consistency, the habit itself becomes more rewarding. Think about that sense of accomplishment you get from a clean house or a completed project. That's intrinsic motivation kicking in.
So we're not just relying on external rewards forever. Eventually, the habit itself becomes something we enjoy and look forward to.
Exactly. It becomes part of who we are.
Okay, so we've got habit stacking, removing obstacles and rewards. Anything else we should add to our habit-building arsenal?
One more crucial element, tracking your progress. This could be as simple as marking a calendar each day you complete the habit. But that visual representation of your progress is incredibly motivating. It's like watching a plant grow.
Plus, if you do slip up, you can look back and see, hey, I was doing great for 2 weeks straight. I can totally get back on track.
Exactly. That track record can really boost your confidence and help you get back on the wagon when you need to.
This is all such great advice. But even with the best system in place, we're human. There could be days when we mess up. How do we handle those moments without getting discouraged?
That's such an important question. And it brings us to one of the most important principles of habit formation. Be kind to yourself. Building habits is a journey, not a race. There will be setbacks along the way.
So it's not about beating ourselves up when we slip up. It's about being compassionate and understanding.
Exactly. Instead of asking yourself, why did I do that? Try asking, what was happening that led to that choice? And what can I do differently next time?
So it's about shifting from self-judgment to curiosity.
Precisely. It's about seeing those slip-ups as valuable data points, not failures.
This is all making me realize that building good habits is more than just a set of tips and tricks. It's almost like a philosophy for living intentionally.
I love that way of putting it. It's about aligning your actions with the person you want to become day by day, habit by habit. And it's something we can all do no matter where we're starting from.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for approaching my goals. But speaking of goals, we focused a lot on the how of habit formation. In the final part of our deep dive, let's explore the why. What are the amazing benefits that await us when we master these skills? Stay tuned. All right, we're back for the final part of our habit deep dive. And I'm really excited to dig into this question of why this all matters. We've talked about the habit loop, all those strategies, but why should we even bother with all this habit stuff in the first place?
It's a great question, and I think it goes beyond just, being more organized or getting things done. Building good habits is really about creating a life that feels good on a deeper level.
Okay, so not just checking things off a to-do list, but like a genuine sense of well-being and fulfillment.
Exactly. And it touches every area of our lives. Let's start with productivity, though, because that's often what draws people in initially. When you have solid routines around work, your studies, even those daily chores, it frees up mental space for other things.
It's like when you finally declutter that junk drawer. Suddenly you can breathe again.
That's a perfect analogy. We only have so much mental bandwidth each day. Good habits reduce decision fatigue. You're not constantly debating what to do next. You're on autopilot for the things you've already decided are important.
So that freed up energy can then go towards, creative projects or spending time with loved ones, things that actually bring us joy.
Precisely. And that's where the well-being piece comes in. Think about those habits that support your physical and mental health: exercise, healthy eating, mindfulness, getting enough sleep.
It's like we're investing in our future selves, creating a foundation for a healthier, happier life.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how these seemingly small actions have a compounding effect. Better sleep leads to better focus, which makes you more productive, which gives you more time for things you enjoy, which reduces stress. It's like a positive upward spiral.
I love that. And it's not just about you as an individual, right? These good habits have a ripple effect on your relationships too.
Absolutely. Think about the habits of good communication. Active listening, expressing appreciation, making time for those quality interactions. These are the things that strengthen our bonds with friends, family, partners.
It's like tending a garden. The habits we cultivate determine how well those relationships flourish.
Beautiful analogy. And there's one more piece I think is really important: personal growth. Those habits we build around learning, exploring new ideas, pursuing our passions. This is where we really come alive.
Yeah, that's the becoming the best version of yourself stuff, the stuff that really lights us up.
Exactly. It could be anything from reading before bed to taking a pottery class to just making time for a hobby you love. These habits keep us curious, engaged, growing as people throughout our whole lives.
It's like you're constantly expanding your world one good habit at a time.
And what's really amazing is how all these benefits interweave. Increased productivity gives you more time for self-care, which boosts your well-being, allowing you to be more present in your relationships, which fuels your personal growth, and on and on. It all works together.
So it's not just about making isolated changes. It's about a holistic shift towards a better life.
That's it, and that's why we're so passionate about this topic. Habits aren't just about getting things done. They're the foundation for a fulfilling, meaningful life.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on habits, not just what they are, but why they matter so much.
And remember, it's never too late to start building better ones. Even one small change, practiced consistently, can have a ripple effect you might not even imagine yet.
So powerful. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with as we wrap up this deep dive?
If there's one habit I would encourage everyone to cultivate, it's the habit of self-reflection. Just take a few minutes each day or even each week to check in with yourself. Are your current habits serving you? Are they moving you closer to the life you want? If not, don't be afraid to experiment, adjust, keep evolving.
I love that. It's like a continuous process of self-discovery and improvement.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with your choices and designing a life that truly reflects who you are and who you want to become.
This has been such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom.
It's been my pleasure. I hope our listeners are feeling inspired and empowered to start building habits that truly support them.
And remember, even small changes can make a big difference. So pick one habit, start small, be consistent, and most importantly, be kind to yourself along the way. Until next time, happy habit building.